Good evening, and welcome to the Immigrant Heroes Award Benefit hosted by the Immigrant Learning Center in Malden, Massachusetts. I am Denzel Mohammed, Director of the Center's Public Education Institute, your host for tonight's extraordinary event. And we are coming to you live from Boston. We hope you had fun exploring our virtual lobby. If not, it'll be there after the live show and for the rest of the week. Immigrants across Massachusetts and the nation play oversized roles in getting us through this pandemic. And tonight, we honor each and every one of them as a hero. Think about it. Without immigrants, we probably wouldn't have the Moderna or Pfizer vaccines. Why? Both companies had immigrant founders. 3 immigrants in Massachusetts, in particular, have done monumental and innovative work to help others, for which we are all grateful. Those 3 new Americans we salute tonight with America's sincere gratitude. And we aren't the only ones who wanted to express thanks. Throughout tonight's event, you'll hear from a cross-section of the Commonwealth, from mayors to teachers to neighbors, who wanted to say thank you. And we begin with some special guests, U.S. Senators Ed Markey and Elizabeth Warren.
I wish we could be together in person to celebrate this important event, but I'm also so glad for the opportunity to offer my thanks to immigrant essential workers during these difficult times. I would particularly like to offer my congratulations to tonight's honorees, Abdulkader Hayani, Monique Nguyen, and Niall Lennon. Congratulations to all of you for all of the incredible achievements that you've had over the last year. You have stepped up during the COVID-19 pandemic and done the critical but often very difficult work that had to be done, whether that was in a hospital saving lives, in virtual classrooms teaching our children, or in a grocery store keeping food on the shelves. You have shown unflinching dedication to your work and your contributions that have been vital to our community, our Commonwealth, and our country. The Immigrant Learning Center is just such a special, special place. It has a special place in my heart. And the work that you're doing is absolutely a continuation of the vision that it has for what immigrants play in a role that makes our country even greater in the 21st century than it was in the 20th. My sincerest congratulations and thanks to all of you.
Hello to everyone at the ILC Immigrant Heroes Award Virtual Benefit. I want to thank you for inviting me to speak today, and thank you to everyone who is participating, all the advocates who fight tirelessly every single day for the rights of immigrants and refugees. I also want to give a special shout out to tonight's awardees. Whether you have produced desperately needed protective equipment, provided relief to undocumented victims of the pandemic, or enable life-saving COVID testing, you are doing powerfully important work. Thank you and congratulations. During these unprecedented and challenging times, immigrants have been on the front line of this pandemic. Immigrants are essential workers. They teach in our schools, work in our restaurants and hospitals, discover groundbreaking cures. Immigrants make our country stronger, and our communities are better and brighter because of the invaluable contributions of immigrants. So please, know that in these hard times, I have your back, and so do a lot of other people in Washington. I'm with you all the way.
Yes, immigrants make our country stronger. Without immigration, America would not be the cosmopolitan and influential cultural and economic powerhouse it is today. We wouldn't have Levi's jeans, Budweiser, Google, TJ Maxx, Instacart, Zoom, that word we can't wait to stop hearing but can't do without, even Goya beans. Being an immigrant isn't special. It's the ethos of being an immigrant. That risk-taking and entrepreneurial spirit of packing a suitcase, leaving everything behind, everyone you know and love, moving to an unknown place with a hope and a dream, and working to do better for yourself, your community, and your children. That's special. And this ethos translates into hard work and dedication to succeed, and ingenuity in figuring out how to get there. And America is the place where that can happen. The only place in the world where you can come from any country, any background, any religion, language, experience, and become a full-fledged member of that society, an American. One person who embodies this spirit and ethos is a former refugee who fled persecution into the unknown and was determined not only to succeed, but to help her entire community succeed as well. Her name is Diane Portnoy, founder and CEO of the Immigrant Learning Center.
Thank you, Denzel. And hello, everyone. Thank you for being with us on this very special night. And thank you to all our sponsors, including this event's sponsors, the law firm of Sullivan & Worcester and the RMR Group. With all the dark clouds we've been living under for the past year, I have really been looking forward to this night of bright silver linings. Tonight, we celebrate the human spirit as we honor everyday people who stepped up to become heroes when we needed them most. The one thing they all have in common is they were born elsewhere and chose to live in this country. But first, I want to take a little diversion to tell you about my personal heroes, my parents. They were Polish Jews who survived the Holocaust but lost their entire families. They were only married a year when the Nazis invaded Poland in 1939 and started World War II. My mother was 19 and my father was 21. What they witnessed and experienced are truly inhuman. They reunited when the war ended in 1945, and I was born a year later in what became East Germany. We escaped to West Germany under the American zone, and then when I was just 3 years old, the United States passed the Displaced Persons Act, which allowed us to immigrate to the United States as refugees. We came through Ellis Island in an American converted battleship, men on one side, women and children on the other. We were settled in Malden where my brother Henry was born. I just cannot begin to imagine what it was like coming to a new country with no family, no friends, no money, and not knowing the language. I was sent to nursery school right away and I learned quickly. But for my parents, there were no free schools to learn English and certainly no money to pay for school. It obviously wasn't easy, but our parents made a very happy life for all of us. And that's where my story gets started. I grew up, had a family of my own, and made a career in education. After the Berlin Wall came down, there was this huge influx of immigrants and refugees from Eastern Europe. And they all reminded me of my parents. I had seen how hard it was for my mother and father not knowing English. And I knew how important it was for this latest wave of newcomers to learn English. I also knew they weren't getting the help they needed. So in 1992, I opened the Immigrant Learning Center to provide free English classes to immigrant and refugee adults. You should join us for our 30th anniversary celebration next year. On day one, we were fully enrolled with 60 students and 80 people on the waiting list. You know, before the pandemic, we were helping almost 900 a year, and sometimes our waiting list would be almost 1,000 people. In the nearly 30 years since opening, we have helped over 11,000 people from 122 countries learn English and achieve their goals, such as getting a job, enrolling in a training program, becoming a citizen, and much, much more. From that first day, our classrooms were always full. And then September 11th, 2001 happened. Suddenly, our students were afraid to leave their homes. Americans were angry and scared, and anyone who looked foreign was a potential target for scapegoating. Our students told us that strangers would attack them on the street, saying terrible things to them. And just like when my parents first arrived in America, some people would say really nasty things to them, like the Nazis should have finished the job and killed all the Jews. People who knew me and actually knew I was an immigrant would say to me, "You know, Diane, the problem with this country is immigrants." Of course, none of it was true. None of it was based on objective reality. It was all disinformation. It's a pattern that has repeated itself over and over again. This country is what it is because immigrants keep taking a leap of faith by restarting their lives here, and by and large, Americans have welcomed them. At the same time, there has always been some level of anti-immigrant backlash that peaks during times of crisis, and I wanted to break the cycle. So I started the ILC Public Education Institute in order to educate Americans about the positive contributions of immigrants, which brings us back to tonight's event. You are probably aware that we will be honoring 3 people tonight with Immigrant Hero Awards. I would like to thank them personally for their extraordinary contributions to our collective well-being during the pandemic. Abdulkader, Monique, and Niall, thank you. You 3 are ambassadors for the thousands and millions of immigrants who became everyday heroes when the need arose. To get a sense of who these everyday heroes are, I'm proud to introduce you to a few of the ILC students who are essential workers. So thank you again and enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sally Nobinger. I teach Level 4 English at the Immigrant Learning Center, and I want to tell you about 2 of my heroes. The first is my student Veronica from Colombia. In March 2020, she was hired by Mass General Hospital. After working at the hospital only a few weeks, Veronica contracted COVID-19, followed by her husband, son, and in-laws. It was a terrifying time. Veronica told me her biggest fear was that she and her husband would be incapacitated and there would be no one to care for her young son. 3 weeks after she started showing symptoms, Veronica returned to work at MGH. With no guarantee of immunity, it was a risky choice, and I admire her for it. Veronica cleans high-traffic areas like bathrooms and procedure rooms. Every day she goes to work, she hopes she can save others from the suffering her family experienced. I'm grateful for people like Veronica, willing to do the dirty work. Without them, this pandemic would have been a lot worse. You know what else I'm grateful for? The U.S. mail. While sheltering at home last year, we went online for everything from toilet paper to life-saving medicines to little luxuries to cheer ourselves up. And we've cheered each other up with care packages, cards, and letters. My student Andrea from Brazil works at the post office separating and organizing letters and packages for distribution. Just like Veronica, she can't work from home. Even though people around her have gotten sick, including coworkers, she still goes to the post office. Sometimes she works from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. Even with cutbacks and under incredible pressure, postal workers like Andrea kept the mail coming, including a record number of mail-in ballots during the 2020 election.
Hello, my name is Ann Walsh, and I am a volunteer at the Immigrant Learning Center. Last spring, when the ILC shifted classes online, I began tutoring 2 students by phone, Juliana and her husband Jonathan, from Brazil. When everything seemed to be shutting down and my family was self-isolating at home, Juliana and Jonathan continued to work outside of the home. In March, Jonathan lost his job at VMT Construction and started delivering groceries for Instacart. Back when we didn't know exactly how COVID-19 was spread or how to keep ourselves safe, Jonathan was going into stores to shop and then deliver groceries so that his customers could stay safe. He had to learn a lot of food-related English words. Juliana worked in a nursing home, one of the riskiest places to be in a pandemic. She had to learn new medical vocabulary and stay current with constantly changing protocols to keep herself and her patients safe. I always feel like I get as much as I give when working with the ILC students, and that was particularly true this past year. It has been a confusing and isolating time. Working with Juliana and Jonathan has kept me connected to the world and brings light into the darkness for me, and I'm sure everyone they encounter.
Hello, my name is Anna. As an English teacher at the Immigrant Learning Center, I am often impressed by my students' work ethics and many contributions. I am especially proud of Renata. When Renata told me that she was applying to be a home health aide for elderly people, I was worried since she will be working with a high-risk population in the middle of a pandemic with cases rising. But Renata was more concerned about the people she could help. She was a healthcare worker in Brazil and was eager to return to helping people. When I saw how passionate she was about getting back into healthcare, I agreed to be her reference. Now, she's helping to take care of elderly people in their homes. She makes her patients food, she takes them to the doctor, she keeps them company and helps them in many other ways. In spite of the risk, she's happy to be helping her vulnerable patients. I'm so proud of Renata.
Hi, my name is Kathleen. I teach citizenship at the Immigrant Learning Center. Did you know that immigrants make up 1 in 5 restaurant workers in Massachusetts? One of them is my student, DP, from Haiti. He's a chef, and he has worked continuously throughout this crisis. Restaurant workers like DP have put their own safety at risk to keep everyone fed during the pandemic. Maybe you have felt nervous about shopping in a crowded supermarket, or maybe you've experienced food shortages in your area. Maybe you've just gotten tired of cooking for yourself. Whatever your situation, you've probably counted on restaurants and their essential workers to keep you fed at some point during this year. I know I have. Without foreign-born workers, our food system would be in crisis. Immigrants like DP have helped sustain all of us through this pandemic. DP knows people who have gotten sick with COVID-19, and he worries about his own son becoming ill. Even so, he's determined to continue working as a chef, serving up meals for people in his community. He's also determined to become a citizen. even passing up extra hours at work to stay in our online classes. He told me, "I don't come to work just for the paycheck. I open my heart to the work. I take this business as my business." Immigrants like Deepi come to the United States to work and seek citizenship and contribute to their communities, and I'm proud to welcome them.
Wow. Those are some incredible stories of bravery and commitment from our own students at the Immigrant Learning Center. We thank you all for everything you've done to keep our community safe, fed, and taken care of. All Americans have been impacted by the pandemic and its social and economic fallout. And all Americans have done a tremendous job sustaining their households and entire communities. Many people work on the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic to keep us all safe, fed, and taken care of. But a disproportionate share of those workers are immigrants. The total foreign-born share of the US population is less than 14%, but immigrants make up nearly 29% of our physicians. They're more than a third of our home health aides, like our student Renata from Brazil, taking care of the most vulnerable, and a quarter of personal care aides and nursing assistants, and more than 50% of our biotech workers. As I said before, without immigrants, we probably wouldn't have 2 of the 3 vaccines for COVID in the US, as both Moderna and Pfizer have immigrant founders. And it's not only in healthcare where immigrants are sustaining us. In nearly every sector deemed essential during the pandemic, immigrants, documented or not, have an outsized role. Think of those who feed America, those in the restaurants like our student Deepi from Haiti, and those in the fields. 43% of agricultural workers are immigrants. Think of those who keep America sanitized and clean. A quarter of our janitors, like our student Veronica from Colombia, and 47% of our maids are immigrants. Think of the products we need to get through this. Immigrants make up 50% of those who package our food, medicine, and soap. Undocumented immigrants in particular have put themselves in harm's way so we can keep moving. Nearly 3 in 4 undocumented workers are doing jobs deemed essential to our critical infrastructure. And yet, they were excluded from federal stimulus relief. Immigration to the US was severely curtailed, and the US gave itself even more reason to deny refuge to refugees. There is a lot of misinformation about immigrants in the US, and the outsized role immigrants and refugees have played in getting us through this is what we highlight tonight. There are countless immigrants in Massachusetts doing incredible work to help others deal with and recover from the pandemic. And there were many suggestions for honorees from across the Commonwealth. They include Colombian American Father Edgar Gutierrez of St. Luke's Episcopal Church in Chelsea, who expanded his food pantry when the lines grew long during COVID. Indian American Dr. Ashish Jha of Brown University's School of Public Health from Boston, who, despite the backlash, made it a point early on to get the right information to the public. Haitian American counselor Natasha Kluger in Randolph, who expanded the reach of free food services to Avon and Holbrook. And Pakistani American Mayor Sumbul Siddiqui of Cambridge, who launched the Mayor's Disaster Relief Fund, expanded free COVID testing, and increased internet access to low-income families. Tonight, we honor 3 immigrant heroes from Massachusetts who have done very different but equally extraordinary things to help others. We will watch their stories and hear from them in person, with a few surprises along the way. I hope you'll use the chat box to share your thoughts and your congratulations. And we'll also hear from 2 more elected officials who wanted to be here but couldn't for obvious reasons, and so send their congratulations by video. Again, please make use of the chat box throughout tonight's event, and also feel free to say thanks to the sponsors who are listed in the sidebar. The Immigrant Learning Center thanks you too. Please take screenshots and video with your smartphones and share the event on Twitter, tagging @ILCTR, and on Facebook @Immigrant Learning Center. All right, here we go. Our first honoree is also the newest to America. He came as a refugee fleeing war and possible death, with his family of 6, determined to make a life for his children that was not at all possible in their homeland of Syria. As a Muslim, resettled by Jewish Family Service of Metro West, he was incredibly grateful for the generosity and kindness he received. When the pandemic hit, he found his way to give back. We honor Abdulkader Hayani.
My name is Abdulkader Hayani. I'm from Syria. I'm work a tailor. طلعت أنا من سوريا بال 2011. أبوي قال لي روح اطلع. بعدين طلعت على الأردن ضليت شي 3 سنين 4 سنين. بعدين اجتني سفرة على أمريكا وجيت لهون. I'm coming to here 2017 January 18. جيت على المطار واستقبلوني منظمة JFS وكان إد وبابرا. استقبلوني ناس كتير كانوا ظريفين أمريكان هني وساعدوني وصلوني للبيت. كنت مع 4 أطفال. كان كتير الوضع تعبان كتير. كنا تعبانين. بشتغل هون خياط بجوزيف اي بانك. بعدين اجى الكوفيد 19 وقفنا شغل ما تم شغل.
We started our foundation just over 20 years ago, and over the last 5 or 6 years started focusing specifically on refugees. Early in the pandemic, when there was a lot of questions about what was causing the spread and what could be done about it, it became increasingly clear that the use of cloth masks would actually be quite effective at reducing the transmission.
Abdulkader is genuinely a kind and generous person, and he is an incredibly talented tailor. And so he did not hesitate when we approached him with this idea to say, yes, I will make masks for you.
Having him available to us where he could devote his full-time attention to volunteering was an incredible gift.
طرحنا انه نشتغل كمامات ونساعد الناس اللي ساعدونا. كنا عم نسوي فيديو يوتيوب عم نعلم شلون العالم تسوي ماسك بالبيت. اشتغل هوم ماسك. بلشت بإبرة اشتغل ماسك. بعدين شفت انه في كتير ناس بدهم ماسك. ما كان في ماسك متوفر بالسوق. وبعدين صرنا نشتغل ونوزع للمعبد وللمنظمة.
I call them the pioneers, because they were the first cloth masks that we got, the first cloth masks that we saw. To be able to provide at least 2 or 3 masks for each of the workers, it was a relief that made possible, for the workers to actually do more work. Because if you didn't have a mask, you couldn't see a client.
The project would not have happened without Abdulkader's leadership and commitment to this and basically never saying no. I don't know if he didn't sleep, always said yes, always with a smile.
There had been a series of articles in the Boston Globe about the arrival of the Syrian refugee families that focused on Abdulkader and the Hayani family, but also included stories about other families that we had welcomed. And as a follow-up, wrote a story about the mask making project, and they included a link to a website that we set up. And orders began pouring in literally from across the country. And as they poured in, we were not daunted. Abdulkader certainly wasn't daunted, and fulfilled mask orders to 22 states.
Abdul, the few times that I have had the chance to see him, he's a person that gives. And I'm not talking just about masks. His eyes, even when you look at his eyes, it's just such humbleness in there.
2000 كمامة 2000 ماسك بس مساعدة بسيطة للشعب الأمريكي.
I remember vividly meeting Abdulkader and his family at the airport a few days later after they got settled into their home. I basically watched them play soccer around me, and just the joy in their faces of being safe and being normal, being kids, watching them become so seemingly well adjusted to this environment and the safety that the United States was able to provide them. And I think particularly now, they and others like them will have the opportunity to experience that again. This is clearly a win-win.
مو بس أنا حبيت أساعد، كان في كتير لاجئين سوريين وعراقيين، جميع اللاجئين يعني كانوا حابين يساعدوا أمريكا بهالمحنة الصعبة هي بكوفيد 19. أنا حابب أضل هون بأمريكا وأدرس أولادي إن شاء الله، أفتح شوب، تيلر شوب I hope إن شاء الله. Thank you America. I like here.
Abdulkader, Mabruk, congratulations on this very well-deserved honor. Jeff has been so fortunate to know your family over these years since resettlement here in the U.S. I want to say shukran, thank you, for everything you did for the most vulnerable employees and families here at JFS during COVID-19. The cloth masks you made for us during the pandemic literally saved lives. Without your masks, we could not have protected our employees who needed to provide direct service to our clients. You are a JFS hero.
Tahanina.
Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Alf Mabruk!
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Abdul.
Congratulations.
Congratulations!
Tahanina!
Congratulations.
As a fellow immigrant, I want to congratulate all the immigrant workers who really stepped up during this pandemic. Thank you.
Congratulations to tonight's award recipients. So well deserved. We look forward to celebrating with you in person.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know many refugees in the United States have done amazing things to help during COVID. I'm happy to have been selected for this award.
Thank you so much. That was incredible. And here's a special thank you from our Attorney General, Maura Healey.
I want to say thank you to the essential workers who stepped up and put yourselves at risk to help us all get through this pandemic. Immigrants and refugees have been on the front lines, working in our hospitals, caring for patients in nursing homes, stocking shelves in grocery stores, delivering packages and meals. I know you'll hear the stories of many of these everyday heroes this evening. You are such an important part of our community, and we thank you.
Thank you, Attorney General Healey, and congratulations, Abdulkader. You and your kids inspire us all. We're so grateful to have you in America. Our second honoree saw a huge need and readily went about taking care of it. Undocumented immigrants weren't eligible for federal help when the pandemic hit, so she, already leading a not-for-profit, partnered with two other organizations to launch the Massachusetts UndocuFund to give cash assistance to families in need. They've raised more than $1.5 million, and their recipients even include ILC students. The matter is personal for her, since she was once undocumented as well. We honor Monique Nguyen.
My name is Monique Nguyen. I am the Executive Director of Matahari Women's Worker Center. I've co-founded the Massachusetts UndocuFund with Massachusetts Jobs with Justice and One Fair Wage. So Matahari is a women's social justice organization. We develop the leadership of immigrant women and women of color and their families to fight for rights and policy changes that impact their lives at the workplace. So whenever the COVID pandemic broke, I reached out to my closest allies because immigrants are always left behind and left out during these specific moments. And under the pandemic, it's a matter of life and death. We felt that we had to respond to show that immigrants that we do see and value you, and you should have support like everybody else. There was an UndocuFund there in California during the fires there, and we just reached out to that organization and replicated their model, and our hope was that our cash assistance could supplement or provide some semblance of support. And so the industries that we saw who actually did apply for the fund were in the restaurant industry, domestic work, agriculture, farming, construction. These industries make our life possible every single day. We got a lot of individual support and donations and foundation support.
We supported the UndocuFund with a $25,000 grant. It's really important to support people at this time. It's like no other time. We have to really cherish our neighbors. They're part of the community.
We just give them the check and we tell them to use it however best they think is good for them. And oftentimes it's buying groceries for the family for a week or two, or paying an electric bill. To be able to work with Monique, to be able to create this fund, we've raised $1.5 million. We've given out almost $1 million of those dollars in the past year to undocumented immigrants across the state in all 14 counties of Massachusetts.
I know I will find something to survive. And for sure, Matari helped me a lot in that way. I decided to learn certified nursing assistant. And then now I got the certificate. And then after that, I found a job.
Seeing the drive and the motivation and the creativity of Monique and being able to partner with the different organizations has been a real honor and privilege.
Every time I do work in the community, every time that I see people look like they're not scared or feel open and to be who they are, that makes me feel like I get a sense of healing from that. My parents immigrated to North America after the Vietnam War in the late 70s, and I was born in Canada. And my parents and I, we immigrated to Houston, Texas when I was the age of 10. My family and I, was my brother, my mom and dad, we were undocumented. And even though we've been paying for immigration fees this whole entire time, that my brother and I and my father were undocumented. My mother was the only one that had status at that point. And it was due to pure neglect and not having materials translated for my parents to understand what was happening. They didn't file the paperwork correctly for my family, so we fell out of status, and we didn't know that we were undocumented.
Monique is one of those people you meet and she's really warm and passionate. It really comes across in sort of not only how she talks about workers, but what she does in sort of supporting their work. And it's just really infectious, and you just really want to get involved and be supportive.
Everybody is at the same page when you work with Monique. You white, you black, you whatever, you are welcome. She's encouraging. She encouraged people to grow up as a leader.
I chose to put my roots down in Boston area because I saw so much possibility for a community to really be supportive of immigrants and also be made by immigrants, and also having people who are not immigrants being community. And I see that now under COVID, because people really showed up for each other in so many ways, whether you're undocumented or not. And I'm hoping that continues after COVID.
Hi, this is Natalia and Sandra from Volunteers in Medicine. We want to congratulate and thank you all the Immigrant Hero essential workers in Massachusetts, all the honorees, and especially Monique. This is a very well-deserved honor. We hope you enjoy it. Have a great evening. Bye.
On behalf of our entire city, I'd like to extend a sincere thank you to all of the Immigrant Hero essential workers that have kept the region running and kept us safe throughout the pandemic. I'd also like to congratulate Monique Nguyen and the other honorees for being recognized tonight. You have all risen to the occasion, and our communities are better for it. Thank you for your service.
Thank you to all the immigrant workers who are not only essential in getting us through this pandemic, but in building this country and making it the great country that it is today. Congratulations also tonight to all the awardees.
Learning Center for the recognition, and I couldn't have done this without the partnership of Massachusetts Jobs with Justice and One Fair Wage and all the organizations that we partner with to distribute all the money across the state. And for us, it was beyond just about cash assistance. It was showing the visibility to immigrant workers that we see you and we respect your dignity. And beyond your labor and your contributions to society, you deserve respect as people who have heartbeats and have families and have longings for belonging and home. We recognize you, and I'm hoping that our work will continue beyond the pandemic to support one another and see and recognize the love and support for immigrants. Thank you so much.
And now a special message of congrats from Congresswoman Katherine Clark.
Congratulations to our 3 Immigrant Hero Award recipients on your well-deserved recognition. And thank you to all the immigrant heroes who have been on the front lines of this pandemic. Your work has always been essential, and that has shown through in this time of crisis. Thank you all for your countless contributions to our communities, and congratulations again to tonight's honorees.
Thank you, Congresswoman Clark, and congratulations, Monique. You helped so many families get through this to the benefit of the entire Commonwealth. Everyone is better off because of the work you do. Thank you. Okay, our third and final honoree has a lot of fans from his home country in Ireland watching, and about 15 million people here in New England thankful that he came here. When the pandemic first hit, and testing was near impossible to get, the Broad Institute set forth a series of events to find a way to get mass testing done in a fast, reliable, and cost-effective way, saving thousands of lives. As you'll hear, they couldn't have done it without Dr. Niall Lennon.
About March 7th or 8th of last year, one of the Broad Institute sort of affiliate faculty members, Deb Hung, who is an infectious disease doc at Brigham and Women's Hospital also, came to us at the genomics group within the Institute and said, I think Boston's going to need more diagnostic capacity than we have. And so within days, we actually had mobilized. I think none of us thought that just under a year later, we would be sitting on having done our 12 millionth test. Prior to COVID, the typical timeline for going from an idea to a real clinical test, at least a year. But by March 23rd, roughly 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks later, we actually started running our first clinical test. Now, with the latest versions of the test we're running, we are running approximately 100 to 120,000 tests a day.
Niall really took the lead in figuring out how we were going to approach getting that test clinically validated. And then after we clinically validated it, applying to the FDA to be able to get what's called an EUA, an emergency use authorization. We have iterated the assay a couple times to be responding to both an increased need of scale of our test, and also there are different variants of the virus that are emerging. Each time we make a change like that, we have to go back to the FDA to seek approval. That is work that Niall is continually doing. We've been told many times, particularly by the state of Massachusetts, that they've been able to expand testing here so widely to all the nursing homes, to congregate care, to homeless shelters, because they know they can turn to us for this very affordable test that's priced at a fraction of what they might pay if it were a commercial lab.
When the outbreak happened at the Holyoke Soldiers Home, my boss got on the phone with me and said, they need help right now, can you get on the road and start driving there? It's kind of like walking into the middle of a burning building. You're trying to figure out what you can save and how you can do it as quickly as possible. When I arrived at the Soldiers Home, we discovered that COVID was spreading through the building and we were in the middle of a crisis. People were still testing positive months later, and we didn't know if it was a second outbreak or not. And that's where we needed to get not just the yes-no data of the tests, but what the numbers underneath meant. We talked to other testing partners and said, hey, we have an issue. It is an important one that is causing a lot of difficulty. Niall's the one who got back to us. Everyone else, it's a pandemic, but everyone else was too busy to talk to us. And it wasn't till we had that information that we could give them some ease of mind, because they felt like they were reliving parts of a nightmare that they had already been through once.
If we didn't have Niall on the team, it's really hard for me to imagine we would have arrived at the place we are today. He's just such an integral member of this very, I would say, tight-knit leadership team where we all bring a set of skills that are really needed to make this kind of progress. Niall's piece of the puzzle is, one might say, the most important of them in terms of having that clinical eye to the test.
Niall is kind, accessible, and most importantly, he's generous with his time. He knew that we needed advice, and we probably knew he had a million other things to be doing during that time. Took all of our questions seriously and got back to us. It's the kind of kindness and partnership that you need when you're dealing with a potential crisis.
Went to university in Ireland. I studied science, and I did a PhD there. Didn't know anybody in Boston, didn't really know anything about Boston. I set up a networking association for Irish scientists in America. And it was through that I ended up having a conversation with a scientist who at the time was working at a place called the Whitehead Institute. And he said, well, we're about to launch this thing called the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard, and you should come over. We work in the genomic space. We just finished sequencing the human genome. So I did. I came over and I interviewed, and that was 15 years ago. The ability to actually offer testing to a community has been something that we could do that has a short-term impact, a short and real impact to the community. I personally am very thankful that we've been able to contribute in this way to the community, to the Boston community, the Massachusetts community, and the New England community. It's meant that people have the peace of mind.
Thank you to all the immigrant workers who kept us safe and cared for throughout this pandemic. Congratulations to tonight's award winners, especially Niall Lennon and the team at the Broad. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Niall. We're so lucky to have you as a leader at the Broad, and so grateful for all that you and all immigrants have done to help us get through this pandemic. Congratulations again.
As the grandson of a Portuguese immigrant from New Bedford, I'm happy to say congratulations to tonight's honorees and thank all the members of the immigrant community who've played a critical role in the front lines of this pandemic.
I too, an immigrant like you. I grew up in India, spent a decade in Canada, and came to this country a few decades ago. I'm so proud of all of you because you make both the countries that you came from and the new countries that you adopted proud. I want to thank all the immigrants who really stuck their neck out and are getting us through this pandemic.
Thank you very much. I feel so honored and humbled to be an awardee tonight with the amazing people that we've heard about so far. And I want to point out that I accept this award on behalf of the entire group at the Broad Institute. It's not just me, it's really a group effort, and some of my colleagues are here with me tonight. And there are over 500 colleagues who've joined us and who are working, even now, just a few blocks away from here, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to do this testing so that we can all get out of this pandemic together. I want to just thank my family in Ireland and around the world who I know are watching right now in Tullow, County Carlow, and around the place. I was very fortunate to grow up in a very supportive family, and they supported me even as I moved to Boston to follow my dreams. And finally, I want to thank my own family here in Arlington, Massachusetts, my wife Leonie, my kids Saoirse, Lucas, and Sophie, and particularly my wife Leonie, who is my own personal hero. Without her support, I couldn't have made it through this last year. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Niall. Thank you for choosing Massachusetts as your home, because without you, we'd be in a much darker place. Your ingenuity has saved so many. Thank you. The stories you've heard tonight are just the tip of the iceberg. Immigrants of all kinds across the country are doing incredible things, counter to the narrative you may have heard. They create jobs, find vaccines, stock our grocery shelves, take care of the sick. They help others. Look around you. Talk to new Americans, hear their stories, and share them. Immigration is inextricably intertwined with the United States and has helped make us who we are and what we are. So let's continue to be welcoming to new Americans. Let's share facts and stories about immigrants. Together, we can get through anything. We have an awesome video to round out things tonight, featuring people from across the state, including some of you who are watching. And we want you to know our interactive lobby will be open after the event. That's also something you might want to share. If you're into golfing, we'll be hosting our 22nd Golf Classic on June 7th at Pine Brook Country Club in Weston, Massachusetts, with incredible lunch, an ice cream truck, and of course, stringent safety protocols. This has been an incredible evening. Thank you so much to tonight's honorees, Abdulkader, Monique, and Niall. We're so honored to have you here tonight. Thank you to Senators Markey and Warren, Attorney General Healey, and Congresswoman Clark. Thank you to our sponsors, particularly the RMR Group and Sullivan & Worcester. And thank you to you for being with us tonight and sharing in these inspiring stories of our immigrant heroes. I'm Denzel Mohammed, and on behalf of Diane Portnoy and all of us at the Immigrant Learning Center, stay safe and good night.
Thank you to the many immigrants who have been on the front lines serving their communities during the pandemic, and congratulations to tonight's honorees. Your service proves that we all benefit when we welcome new immigrants to our country.
Congratulations to tonight's nominees, and thank you to all the immigrant workers who have helped us through this pandemic.
Thank you to all the immigrant workers who were essential to making it through this pandemic. This past year was very difficult, and we appreciate all your hard work and dedication. Thank you. Thank you to all of you guys.
For all that you do in healthcare, food service, item delivery, everything that makes us comfortable and safe. Thank you to our immigrant workers. You are heroes.
Immigrant workers were on the front lines of this pandemic, and I just want to thank you for all of the work that you do to continue to drive our economy each and every day. Congratulations to all of the awardees tonight.
Throughout this pandemic, frontline and essential workers have stepped up in our communities despite the risks to keep our economy moving. And many of these essential workers are immigrants. I want to thank all of our immigrant heroes for what you do for our communities every single day.
I want to take the opportunity to thank all the immigrant workers who have been essential to getting us through this pandemic. Your resiliency and strength are truly inspiring, and your sacrifices cannot go unnoticed. So thank you so much, and big, huge congratulations.
Thank you and shukran jazilan from the bottom of my heart to our immigrant workers who've been essential to getting us through this pandemic so far. And congratulations also to tonight's honorees. I particularly want to thank our immigrant serving CBOs who've been crucial to providing food to so many of our immigrant residents. Thank you. Words cannot express the gratitude we all feel for you. Shukran, gracias, merci, thank you.
We're so grateful to the many immigrant workers and small business owners who have been so courageous throughout the pandemic. They've done their part to battle the virus and reopen our state's economy. Congratulations to tonight's awardees.
Hey immigrants, thanks for what you do in our economy and in our communities. America just wouldn't be at its best without you.
Congratulations and thank you to all immigrant essential workers.
Congratulations to tonight's honorees. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you to all of the immigrants from across Massachusetts, from around the world.
Your commitment to democracy and perseverance throughout the pandemic has sustained us, and we are incredibly grateful. Thank you.
Thank you to all the immigrant workers who are essential to making it through this pandemic.
And congratulations to tonight's honorees.
Sullivan & Worcester is proud to continue to support the ILC as it has been a source of education for the immigrant community for decades and throughout the pandemic.